The Cherub Boy of Baltimore. Sat in shit I try to pit my carcass versus sea. Though choked in woe, on must I row, in hope he'd set me free. Swim or sink, the draining drink, we row, else no tomorrow. In fetid stink I row and think to shrink some more in sorrow. Chained in the bow in agony to plough the plundered waves, contributing the tragedy of trade in suffered slaves. In shite and chafe and shin-deep slime, with rodents just the winners, squealing in delight as dined fat on our filth dinners. In shin-deep slime our scourge defined by verminous transmitters, biting legs on those ahead as withal they bit me. Rats chewed our bread, and on the dead of those that died at sea, rows and rows of rat-gnawed toes on decomposing feet. Mauled buttocks sat in sullied clothes on defecated seats. In rows we sat, in shit, in froze, or sat in shit in heat. Stifling or stinging cold, it mattered not a jot, if all had hypothermia, or if we're scorching hot, or stricken with malaria, as long as one could row. For death was dealt to any who, the Corsairs thought were slow. On we rode, and we rode on, shattered with defeat. Each day we rode a marathon, rode on we in repeat. Skeletons as fed on scraps, with never enough to eat. Starving lines of skin-ploughed spines, like bones of snakes out of behinds. Bone serpents slithered out arse cracks, escaping north crossed latticed backs. Our backs were maps of old attacks, bull-whipped the same cruel story. If one of four were to relax, all four would be his quarry. Flesh got threshed off four abreast, if one the pole one fails. All four would feel, if one had rest, the cat with 9 cruel tails. On piss-cracked skin I sit in stench, important tears on this sore bench, pulling on this arduous oar, pondering the future for this Cherub Boy of Baltimore. The cherub out of Baltimore was on my mind the day before. He is the weakest of the four, and gets us whipped from shore to shore. How much more could we endure, when he's too weak to do the chore? He's broke the boy from Baltimore, the Cherub Boy from Baltimore. We do the graft, he just the motion, like a doll devoid emotion, like a puppet at the paddle, all his strings snipped to unravel, a hapless shadow. Sat there sapped and tired and trapped, mute and addled, not acknowledged nor had spoken, sitting all alone and broken. But his burden I will saddle, as he is no frail and fragile. I will rise, be twice as agile, so 3 men can row for 4. For I'd apart an island scandal, forced to course to Baltimore. This guilt to wait I can't ignore. I mobilised to Baltimore, rode the bay of roaring water, helped commence their awful slaughter, their crusade of kill or capture, boosting sordid slave-made stature. Self-torture since, in tortured toil, recalling then I then recoil, remembering I curse the oar I manned to Baltimore. I understood, yet scolding silence, terrified of Turkish violence. A limbless trunk I'd sink a cripple, if so much a splash or ripple. Why did I not shout out then, to warn, to waken sleeping men? I'd die and try alarming yell, but rather that than live this hell. With oakum strips round oar tips, lips bound in intimidation, a silent night's apocalypse of Baltimore's cremation. That dire dawn, by Thor the burn, this time I was the cause. The 2 of 3 they stared at me with hate as raked 9 claws. Raked 9 cat's claws, and all because I slowed as paused in thought. I paused and slowed as Frenchmen rode, but 4 in all were taught. El Hajj Ali, who despised me and Christians to his core, whose captaincy had killed at sea 100 slaves or more. 100 galley slaves or more, I saw 4 years his hostage. I'll not survive another 4 with this fierce Moor in bondage. He flayed flesh with relish, yet the Cherub Boy felt naught, and stared ahead as if was dead through Hajj Ali's onslaught. He stared ahead, but plenty bled, a pallid, blooded spectre, and his blood red dripped and fed black rats with angel's nectar. Tiny, ghastly, scratching feet clawed as swarmed together, fighting for flayed flesh to eat, with final whips of leather. Close to comatose we rode, slumped our lives forsaken. Heave-hoed we in delirium, push-pulled to save our bacon. In pain I punted memory streams, daydreaming oft my form, to stay insane or drift in dreams as searing pain the norm. To think back to that firestorm that blazed the sky before the dawn, as witness on the soundless shore, that serene shore at Baltimore, where in cringe I wept the more, concealing sobs of what's in store for the sleeping folk of Baltimore, those innocents of Baltimore. Sobbing as 4 years before, same demons came creating war, splintering my hovel's door, same crew who used my wife a whore, has landed there in Baltimore. Used like a lifeless figurine and died enjoyed by Algerines, whose lusts let loose to wreck more lives of 9 more Grinder vicar wives. Exact same men, say 4 years later, led by the same grey navigator, Matthew, Murat, Reis or Rice, or Jon Oddsson to be precise, to some the unemancipator, traitor, slaver, captain, cunt, the same sly smile before each hunt. He smirked as veered into the cove, sneered as sniffed a treasure trove, as if he'd smelt sweet-scented oils, the perfumed scent of human spoils. He hushed the janissary corps, of red plush plumes a dozen score, some in crouch and some had match, to wait his word, to light the thatch. The silent wait seemed so sedate, that dreadful tranquil time. No dog in yard gave warning growl, no guard on prowl gave out a howl, or got to a bell to chime, no honk of goose or cluck of fowl, no tweet of thrush or twoo of owl, no snoozers woke to try cry foul to warn the coming crime. On Janson's gesticulation, a detonation of the quiet, Baltimore in immolation, in the bedlam of the riot. Outpoured the Corsair Algerines, cursing, blowing whistles, with lutes and flutes and tambourines, hurling flaming missiles. A calamitous cacophony, the town in deflagration, the stillness torn in that pre-dawn by Turks in ululation. The pirates in alliance, caterwauling icy dread, halted all defiance as the folk froze stiff in bed, frozen with the frightful flood, demolishing the dwellings, as the younger gushing blood encouraged it by yelling. Some brave soul had seized a knife and gashed him in his head. That same brave soul had lost his life defending his homestead. Oddsson frenzied on that night with wet bedevilled glare, a hellish sight by firelight with blood-striped silver hair. I had no need a scream translator, the language is the same, whence yelled the unemancipator, torch the town in flame. Viking sounds the same as Celts, Sardinians or Greeks, same comprehensive dialects of universal shrieks. The hollered opera split the dawn by orgies of destruction, and sighted in that barbarous morn the cherub in abduction.